All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming today. So this is the first APhA, the pathway series that we're gonna cover, and today we're gonna do industry. We have a grade 6 people of panels from each class. We're gonna have 2 people each. And before we start the presentation, I would like to ask everyone else to mute their computer if you don't have any questions to ask at the moment. That'll be good for like avoiding the echoing. And so how we're gonna run today is, so we're gonna start with everyone's introductions. They have prepared their own introduction slides, so we're gonna share that. And we also got the pre-requested questions from RSVP, and we're gonna also share those questions and answer like how they did for each class when they were P2s and P3s and P4s. Again, thank you so much for the panels today. So we're gonna about to start as we share the slide. Hold on. Okay, can everyone see the slide? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna make it as a present. Okay, so the first person to introduce is Eileen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eileen. I am a P2. A little bit on my background. So I came to pharmacy school with multiple years of research experience, and I am now involved in 2 research projects with the 2 doctors Mattingly. So one focuses on the bulk drug substances nominated for use in compounding, and then the other one is on drug recalls for compounded products. I am working part-time for Ionis Pharmaceuticals, which is located in San Diego, California, but I am very fortunate enough to be able to work remotely. I got the job opportunity after I completed my internship last summer. I recently participated in the P&T competition, which was a great learning experience and allowed me to get a glimpse of a fraction of what managed care pharmacy is about. My interest in pursuing a career in the pharmaceutical industry started during my P1 year. So I started pharmacy school thinking that a pharmacist can only work in either retail or hospital. But then I spoke to upperclassmen and friends from AMCP and IPHO, and they told me about fellowships and careers in industry. So I began to attend general board meetings and connecting with speakers to find out how I can prepare myself throughout pharmacy school to be a competitive applicant, but when it's time for me to apply for fellowships or job positions. So I started applying for internships around January last year, and I got my offer around April. The internship for me was a great learning experience because it allowed me to get hands-on experience and see what the working environment is like. Even though my internship title was translational medicine intern, because of Ionis company structure and overlapping functional areas, my project's deliverables were actually fell more into the medical affairs field. And because of that, I was able to learn and understand both of the department's role and responsibilities. What I like and learn from my internship is that working in industry is not a routine job. Not every day is the same. You get to build relationships with colleagues cross-functionally and continue to educate and work with healthcare professionals. There are opportunities for professional career growth as well as a chance for you to change departments that you want to work in. The hours are more flexible and easier to manage. Currently, I am leaning towards pursuing a position in medical affairs such as med info, but I am keeping my options open. And after completing the P&T competition, I am considering residency in managed care as well. And one of the things I would encourage is to have an idea of what you want to pursue and talk to your mentors to see how you can get there, but also be open-minded and take opportunities that arise. So I am glad to be invited here today to speak to you all, and I look forward to any questions you have for us later on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next P2 is Joanne.
Hey guys, nice to meet everybody. My name's Joanne and I'm a P2. So some experience that I've done over my time in pharmacy school so far. I've done some research in the clinical and economic burden of Medicare beneficiaries who are a little bit older, and that's more in the health economics outcome research area. So if any of you know about that, it's HEOR stuff. And then I'm currently doing some work with Dr. Derej about hydrogen deuterium exchange using mass spectrometry. So I'm about to start that soon, which is really exciting. I was an ORISE research fellow with the FDA over the summer. So I was in the Office of Clinical Pharmacology and I did 2 research projects with my mentor. The first one was testing the immunogenicity of single dose biologics. And then the second one was the effect of decreased kidney function on the PK of small peptide protein. So that was very interesting. And I think, I definitely learned a lot that helped me in future classes, especially classes that I'm taking right now in AST and IDT. I also, over winter break, completed the PNT competition, actually with Sean and Eileen. So that was a really good learning experience in the managed care field. And regarding my future plans and goals, I'm still looking into things that I'm interested in. There's a lot of different fields in industry pharmacy that, I'm still learning about. Ideally, I would like to get into maybe early or late phase clinical drug development or clinical research, maybe medical affairs, or also maybe regulatory affairs because I was at the FDA this summer. So I'm still keeping my doors open. And then some tips that I have for P1s and even like P2s and P3s. I know I struggled with these a lot, so I really want to emphasize don't fall for it. Imposter syndrome. I was really very insecure, and I still, sometimes compare myself to other people. I see sometimes people, even on this panel, they're doing really amazing things, and it is really stressful being, around so many motivated people. And then, on any certain given day, you're just maybe sitting in bed relaxing and you see someone doing some kind of research project or someone got an internship. But I just want to really emphasize that everyone has their own timeline. And as long as you stay really motivated and as long as you have a goal, then eventually you can get to where you need to be. So I really want to emphasize, don't compare yourself to other people. I know I did that a lot P1 year. And be proactive instead of reactive. So what I mean by that is don't wait for things to happen to you. Try and go out and look for things yourself. So that's a really good tip. So don't wait for people to contact you about internships. Don't be like, oh, I just wish someone would hand an internship to me. That's not how it works. You need to go out and look for it yourself. And yeah, be open-minded about different things you can do. Sometimes if you get involved with things, you may find something that you like that you didn't expect that you would like. So those are my tips for people who are tuning in. Thank you.
Those are really great tips. Now we have P3s. All right, Karen.
Oh my God, now that I look at my slide, I'm like, why is it so colorful? But hi everyone, my name is Karen. I'm a P3. I do some research with our school's PAVE Center. It's more patient-centered, a little bit of HEOR. I also work as a market research analyst with a small venture, working on MTM access. For my internship this past summer, I was at ORISE fellow, just like Joanne at the FDA. I was in the pediatrics division for clinical pharmacology. I've also been a marketing and branding intern for a local company here in Baltimore called TerraSense. And I recently accepted an offer with Sanofi for an internship this semester. Thank you. I'm pretty involved with AMCP. I think it's a really good way to learn more about managed care in the industry and what opportunities there are for you. Like everyone else, I also competed in the PNT competition, but this was the year before. My current goals, I'm in the pharmapreneur pathway, and also I'm working on my UX design certificate. And then I also want to get a marketing fellowship, just like Jordan, who you'll hear from in a little bit. So my tips for everyone, always network. Like, your network is everything. And I know a lot of other people will reiterate this as well. A lot of my internships that I got through networking. Say yes to different things outside of your comfort zone. Like, I don't know why UX design really interested me so much, but I mean, I had some time in my schedule and I decided to go for it. And it just makes you a more well-rounded person, able to see things from multiple perspectives. Even though it can be really competitive, remember that, you know, pharmacy is a really small world, and also you want to help other people to get where you are too, right? I think for me, it's better if I have more of my friends working with me in industry than trying to step on everyone else to get to where I want to be. And then kind of going along with saying yes to new opportunities, just expanding beyond what you think your PharmD can do for you. Don't limit yourself to just typical scientific or clinical stuff. Like, you can do so much with your degree.
Thank you, Karen. I think those are also great tips, especially with like do not limiting yourself with PharmD degree. I think we can do so many things with what we have learned. And next one is Andrew.
Hey everyone, my name's Andrew. I'm a third-year student. I'm also a master's candidate in the pharmacometrics program in the Center of Translational Medicine. Just a little bit about my background. Before coming to pharmacy school, I did a bachelor's in chemical engineering, and I did a post-bac at the FDA, looking kind of more on the pharmaceutic side of pharmacy, and that kind of piqued my interest to go to pharmacy school. So yeah, I didn't really get interested into actually industry until my first year, until I got really involved with MCP and IPHO, and I really used my first year to kind of explore all the different avenues in pharmacy. Actually, my PLS project at the end of my first year was trying to show everyone that there's so much more to pharmacy than the cookie cutter, like residency, retail pharmacy. So I'm really glad Sean is making events kind of like this, kind of more full-fledged out. I would be coming to all of these if I was a P1 student, honestly. But yeah, I really used that first year to explore. And then that summer after P1 year, I started working with Dr. Gaburu, who is the head of the Center of Translational Medicine. And I did research with him, working with drugs like buprenorphine and tacrolimus. And I've just loved that part of pharmacy ever since. It is a very niche, it's very math heavy, and involves a lot of coding too. But yeah, that's just kind of what I like at the school. And I've kind of furthered that interest working at Pfizer. I've worked in rare diseases, specifically sickle cell and hemophilia. And this summer, I actually got a position at Novartis. And I'm going to be doing some modeling simulation exercises in pediatric oncology. And just some advice when you're like applying to any like position or trying to add some more lines on your CV, just try to ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? Don't just go through the motions of like getting those accolades. It's really important to know like your story and like how it fits into the bigger picture. Yeah, all of us here have had like internships and other really great positions, but it's we really get them by like reflecting and being able to tell your story and why this position is going to be like applicable to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. I think having your own story really matters. Yeah. And next one is Jordan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Fraker. I am a P4, And I didn't have any industry internships. So most of my experience came from rotations. And then I had some other experience that wasn't directly related to the industry, but it allowed me to develop a lot of transferable skills that came up a lot during my interviews. So I included a lot of those entrepreneurial experiences here just because it was something that came up so much in my interviews. I thought it might be useful just for you guys to see what worked for me. So starting at the top there, I had experience at Procter & Gamble as one of my rotations in the personal healthcare department, and it was a great experience. I initiated research on the antiviral effect of OTC vitamins and supplements, and by the end of the rotation, it was really great because I had the opportunity to propose 2 new product development opportunities that had around 60 to 80% profit margin potential. So it was something that was really exciting to talk about in interviews, and just a really exciting experience. If anyone is interested in applying for it, that's something you can apply for your P3 year to do your P4 year during rotations. And then my other rotation that I did was at the FDA, and most of my work there was doing post-marketing surveillance of several products in the FDA Adverse Event Reporting Database. And I also evaluated several studies that contributed to FDA warnings surrounding the use of fluoroquinolone. So that way we could educate pharmacists and also providers about the actual incidences of these events and how likely they were to occur. Now, my other relevant experience really is focused on entrepreneurism. That's something I'm really passionate about. So I raised $10,000 in seed funding to develop a higher transparency pharmacy billing application and software that had a projected serviceable obtainable market of around 2 million. And I'm really passionate about that. And that was one of my favorite experiences in pharmacy school. I also was one of the first students selected to pitch at the American Pharmacy Association's annual pitch competition. So they call it Farm Tank. I don't know if they're still doing it, but it was really great because you have the opportunity to propose your idea to an audience of over 50 professionals. I think it was really close to 100 pharmacy professionals. And so I proposed a technology-based solution to increase customer engagement and also help reduce medication abandonment. And then I also have experience at the Pharmaceutical Research Computing Center on campus as a graduate student researcher. And in that role, I really was more of a contract worker. So I just did anything that they needed help with. I kind of just helped out and hopped on board with that. And then I also was the marketing director for the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Network for a year. And next, my future plans, I am going to do an oncology and rare disease marketing fellowship at Blueprint Medicines, which I'm very excited about. And for my advice at the bottom, several just tips here. I think it's really valuable to gain really unique experiences because I think it will really help set you apart from other candidates. And it would also be really interesting talking points during your interview. So don't be afraid to, be your unique self. Even during the interviews, I remember they asked me something that wasn't on my CV, and I just mentioned how I auditioned to be on the cast of Survivor. And it was actually a really good interview and it went really well. And I think people like, getting to know you and getting to know your unique self. So don't be afraid to seek out those opportunities. And the next thing is always try to produce something actionable during your rotations. And so for the P1s, you're very early on in your journey, but it is really important when you're doing rotations to not just be focused on, doing the tasks to get through the day, but trying to actually produce something actionable. So whether it be a process that you think could be improved or a new proposal for something, these are all things that you can do and you can talk about, you can put on your CV, and it's just really good for you, and it will help you be really competitive. And then my last piece of advice is to watch this video, and I don't think the link will work through Zoom, but Google the truth about you. And I love this video because it talks about how a lot of people, in the pharmacy profession, but in general, are very unhappy with their jobs. And so the important thing is that you want to find a career that you are really passionate about and is your strength. And he mentions how we often view strengths as something that we're good at, but there are things that we're good at that we don't necessarily enjoy doing. So it's a really good video that can kind of help put things into perspective. And I think it's really worth it to watch. So I will pass it on to Anna. Oh, wait, I have one more thing. So I also included my contact information at the bottom there. I don't have Facebook and I don't have Instagram. So sometimes people say I'm hard to get a hold of. So if you do have any questions, message me on LinkedIn and I will be happy to talk to you. So Anna, I will pass it on to you.
Thank you.
Okay. It's going to be really hard to top Jordan's energy, but I'm going to try. So my name is Anna. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a P4 PharmD and Master's in Regulatory Science candidate. Something a little bit unique about me that's not on my slide. Before coming to pharmacy school, I actually got my bachelor's degree in marketing at the University of Maryland College Park at Smith Business School. I feel very proud about that. And I guess I have just always carried this deeply rooted interest in business and also entrepreneurship throughout my life. And I've always wanted to combine that with my interest in helping people and healthcare. So I've been very lucky throughout pharmacy school with the opportunities I've been afforded. My P1 year, I had my first internship at Novartis up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in early phase oncology clinical operations. That definitely helped me figure out what I didn't want to do with my life. But the following summer, I was very lucky to get my second internship at Pfizer in global market access, also oncology, where I was supporting Ibrance, which is Pfizer's top oncology asset. It's worth multi-billion dollars. We've probably never learned it in school, but it's actually a top 10 oncology drug and really impactful. During my time there, I discovered my passion for market access, which a lot of people don't know exactly what that is, and I'd be happy to discuss that one-on-one. But basically, it's convincing payers to pay for your awesome drug so that they can actually get into the hands of patients. So while I was there, I helped develop the value story for Ibrance that we were taking to payers around the world. So I was able to learn about global health systems, like why the UK has universal healthcare and why that doesn't work in the US. And that quickly has become my greatest passion. This past summer, I was able to intern at US Medical Capabilities at Amgen. That was supposed to be in California, but it was turned into a remote internship. Regardless, during this internship, I was able to train over 200 medical science liaisons in how they can better communicate the value of Amgen's drugs to physicians, because the field of market access is fast growing to expand far beyond just payers or insurers, but also another more newer stakeholder is actually physicians that play a large role in whether patients actually gain access to a drug. So aside from my internships, I've done a lot of stuff on campus. A lot of you non-P1s might know me as being president of IPHO for about a year and a half. Other than that, I've done about like 6 research projects through the PHSR department with multiple preceptors. Of note, there is Dr. Slako, Dr. Mattingly, Joey Mattingly, and also Dr. Simone Wastilla. I love all of them. And I've also been able to do an APhA rotation at the FDA in the Office of Prescription Drug Promotion, which was really cool because it allowed me to kind of unite what I know about marketing and what I know about pharmacy and learn more about how drugs are marketed and what's allowed and where the red tape is. And additionally, I've also competed in probably every competition we have on campus. Notably, a lot of my teammates are on this panel. Like I worked with Andrew in the PNT competition, we came in first place, and then I worked with Jordan on the regulatory science competition, we came in second place that year. And I definitely take a lot of pride in these competitions, and they were also, more than that, a whole lot of fun. So I strongly encourage doing any competition that sounds even remotely interesting to you. For me personally, it was all of them. So going forward, I will be starting at ZS Associates, which is a life science consulting firm in New York City. I'll be starting as a strategy insights and planning associate consultant, which is a fancy term for business consultant. So my clients will be pharmaceutical companies and biotechs, and I'll essentially be taking on projects for them and renting out my brain. And my goal within like the next 5 years is to specialize in the value and access space and hopefully transition back over into industry. But nothing is set in stone. I might fall in love with consulting in itself, definitely keeping my mind open to any possibility. And in terms of tips, so I'm going to pass on words that my favorite marketing professor from undergrad of all time repeated at least once a lecture, and that's to be a sponge. Even if you don't think you need to know information that's being presented to you, wherever you go, just be a sponge and absorb everything from anyone all the time. And you never know when it'll come in handy. Also read books, keep up with the news, subscribe to pharma newsletters. I have a list that I can send you of my favorite pharma newsletters that help me stay up to date with current events in the pharma space, especially value and access. Additionally, this is something that I tell all of my mentees that I feel like are my famous last words, and it's to do what other people aren't doing. And I encourage you to go on Wikipedia and look up the concept of blue ocean strategy, which is a marketing concept that basically says how to beat your competition is by doing exactly what they aren't. Because if you're going to just copy your competition, then you're going to end up in a saturated market and you'll most likely be outcompeted by somebody else very similar. So go to these GBMs, ask mentors and friends and people you look up to what they've done, what their experiences were. You can copy those if you'd like, but it's even better to go above and beyond and figure out, based on what the gaps in your knowledge are, what you can do to make yourself a better candidate. Transferable skills are a big thing to focus on. Just think about experiences that can get you from not having a certain transferable skill to having a transferable skill. And I think a lot of the panelists have great examples of that, like Karen with her marketing internship, even though it's not pharma related, I think is a great idea. And then of course, Jordan, like her entire CV is non-pharma related, but the skills are exceptionally transferable. So that's a huge one. And to echo what some other people have been saying, network, and especially network with your competition. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you like one day, 20 years from now, you're not going to be competing for the exact same things. I fully believe there's enough space in the world for everybody to live out their dreams and get their dream job. So it's better to see your competition as your potential future coworker rather than somebody who's going to beat you out for a position you want. So that's my main thing. That's all.
Thank you so much. Now we are gonna go into like some questions that we have gathered. I have it in slide. However, I'm gonna stop sharing the monitor so we can see everyone's faces together. But I'll be a moderator and start asking the question, and we can take a turn to answer the questions. All right, so the first question is like, it sounds like you guys have done a lot of research and also organization involvement, like doing internships. Like, what is your like daily routine as a student? Starting with Eileen, if you can answer, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I use Google Calendar. Every Thursday, I make my schedule for the following week, and that helps me manage between school, research, work, and life in general. But basically, Monday through Friday, that is my schedule, and then I try to have some time during the weekend for myself to relax. But yeah, Google Calendar is the key to me being able to manage everything.
Okay, Joanne?
So I use Google Calendar a lot too, but honestly, I feel like I'm really not that organized. I usually just start Monday and just like get going, like just do everything I can. And I really should try to space it out, but I just like do everything I can like over the weekdays. So I really don't like doing work. So I don't do work over the weekends. I try not to. I just try to relax because pharmacy school is a lot, especially peak year. So I really should get like a planner. I've been planning to do that, but I usually honestly, guys don't learn from me, but like I usually just like write down everything I need to do for the week, like on a random piece of paper, and just like try to do everything in like a day. So I can just like, start making study guides. Actually something I do that I think is very helpful, at least for me, is right after I finish a lecture, I type up a summary of that. And then after each lecture, I make, a comprehensive, huge study guide. So I'll have that forever and ever. And I keep on reinforcing it as I learn. So as you probably know, I don't like cramming and I don't like studying and I don't like doing work. So it reinforced it little by little as I go through the semester. So I don't have to do as much work before the exam. So that is something I do on a daily basis.
I think balancing the life really matters. Karen, can you also share, like, because we all know like you are super active in the school, like how do you balance it?
So like Eileen, I'm a huge fan of Google Calendar. I block out chunks of time for everything. So I like anticipate how long something's going to take me, and then I'll schedule time for that. And if I get extra time, that's great. And if I have to go over, then Google Calendar is like super flexible. So I just move things around. But kind of like Joanne, I try to do everything during the day from like 8 to 5. So my schedule's like pretty packed and I don't have a lot of time or much flexibility. But that way, like after 5 p.m., I'm pretty much free to do whatever I need to, whether it's attend org events, play some games with friends, hang out, go get dinner or something. And on the weekends, I try not to do work either.
Yeah, that sounds great. Andrew?
Like everyone else, I use Google Calendar. I always tell everyone pharmacy school is pretty much a huge time management game. You can learn like anything if you're given enough time, but the real challenge is doing it in like a very short amount of time. So just balancing leadership stuff, applying internships, doing research and classes can be tough. So I usually try to wake up pretty early, like 6 or 7, and try to study in the morning when my brain is like most active. And like doing the stuff like I like is more tough to do, like just studying. By like noon, I'll probably be done and then be going to class. And then the afternoon, I'm like pretty tired, so I'll just be doing like org stuff, stuff that like doesn't require that much thinking, just like sending emails, setting up meetings, like applying to internships. And then by by the time I go to bed, like I'm watching like a Netflix show or something. The weekends I'll be doing like master's work, like watching soccer, like hanging out with friends, drinking, like doing whatever. Like sometimes you will have to do like work on the weekends just because most of your ASTs are like exams are on Monday, which is like obnoxious. But yeah, managing your time well is like very key, and being successful, I think, is probably one of the top 3 skills you probably need to be successful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Jordan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, it's tough because when I was a P1 through 3, it was very different because we weren't virtual. We were all in person, so our schedules were very different. And I think, sorry, I'm still on rotation, so my phone is still going off. But yeah, so I think you guys have much different challenges than what we face right now, than what we faced. But I think for me, I was just a really big to-do list person, and I would just always write a to-do list at the beginning of every day of things that I wanted to do and just cross everything off. And that's what worked for me.
Thank you. And how about you? You also had a lot going on throughout the school.
Yeah, definitely not too much to add to everything that was already said. Just a few key points is I didn't seem to use Google Calendar as much as everybody else did. I'm definitely a to-do list person. I feel like you're one of 2 people, and I'm definitely more of a to-do list person. And like, however my day unfolds, it unfolds as long as I just get everything done in some sort of order. You know, that's fine. I'm also like ADHD, so like I'll start one task, finish a quarter of it, hop on to another, and just go back and forth, which is fine. It works. We're fine. And just to add on to that, I also became a morning person, just, like to get my work done in the morning. So I had nights free to watch Netflix and stuff. And I always took one day off every week for my mental health. And I think the one most important thing I'd like to add is to prioritize relationships with mentors, with your friends, with old managers. Check up on them, especially now during this awful time. I know that as a student, I was always really busy, but I never passed down a coffee date. If my mentee wanted to call me, I would end up like turning a 30-minute phone call into like an hour and a half phone call, because I just find that really, really, really important. And I would do the same for my mentees as my mentors did for me, which is prioritize me. So definitely don't say no to dinners or coffee dates or study sessions, because definitely your network matters a lot more than getting an A on your AST exam, but that matters too.
I think it really matters because you also like hear so much information from like talking to the others as you network, like, there's an internship position that's available, or like, oh, look at this, look at that. So networking definitely matters. And this question is probably more tailored to the P4s. Jordan, is it possible to get a job right outside of the school?
Yeah, it's 100% possible to do. And I think Anna can speak on this more because she went directly into consulting, but I can kind of give brief what I've seen. So I think it really depends on the path that you want to take. So there's some careers that you can just hop right into a job after pharmacy school. And then there's others that you have a better, I guess, growth opportunity if you do things like a fellowship or a residency. So for my particular position, everyone has kind of told me that you have more growth opportunities if you do a fellowship compared to if you were to get a job straight in the industry right away. So I think it really depends on what you want to do. And then once you figure that out, you can talk to different people and see, because it is possible depending on what you want to do.
Okay, Anna, how about you?
I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Jordan said. And I especially want to highlight how the growth opportunities with fellowships are allegedly better than going in as a full-time. And I just want to extrapolate, I guess, on that a little bit. And that's because a fellowship will allow you rotational opportunities. So it's especially good if you don't know what you want to do, and it gives you really high exposure. So when you're applying for positions at that company later on, you're more likely to be hired as a senior manager or even associate director, just because these people know you more and they know your work ethic. On the other hand, if you're applying straight out of school with no real world experience, I mean, if you've had an internship, that definitely helps, but you're a lot less likely to come in at the senior manager level. In fact, it's pretty impossible. You're more so looking at the associate level or maybe manager. And if you think about it, promotions generally happen about every 2 to 3 years. So if you start at the associate level or manager level right out of school, and you compare that to someone at the end of their fellowship, you might be a little bit behind. So that's why fellowship is really generally preferred over a full-time position in industry. All that being said, I think that consulting offers very similar growth opportunities as a fellowship, particularly if you want to go into the commercial field. That being said, I also know people who did consulting and then ended up in medical. But the thing about consulting, like there's got to be a catch, right? Is what you're wondering, is you have to grind. So consulting is really noteworthy for having really long hours. So depending on the firm, you might hear people working between 50 and 80 hours a week. It's a very wide range. For my firm specifically, I heard a good average is 55 hours, but some weeks you might have to put in 60. Very, very rarely you have to put in 80. But I've also heard you never have to work a weekend, at least it's a yes. Now, I could do like a 30-minute lecture on consulting, but now if you were to go for like MBB, so that's like McKinsey, Bain & Company, or BCG, they expect 80-hour weeks. But that being said, those 3 companies are also known to turn out CEOs. Like if you know the CEO of Novartis, Voss, he is ex-McKinsey. And that's just because that's the type of experiences that sets them up for. So definitely.
So it is possible to get a job after school, right?
Yes, but there's trade-offs.
Right, you have to pick and choose like what you want. Next question is it possible to get a job in industry with only retail pharmacy experience? Does anyone, I guess we could start from P2s. Did you get the internship with the retail experience or without experience? Do you think, does it really matter when you get an internship? Eileen?
So to answer the first question, I only had a little bit of retail experience when I was still in college, and I'm still learning everything, and maybe the upperclassmen will correct me, but I think with just retail pharmacy experience, I think it would be difficult but it does come down to transferable skills that Jordan was mentioning earlier. So because you might not have the transferable skills for the position nor the industry knowledge. And right now, because it's so competitive and you're not just going to be competing with other industry people, but also people in retail who are trying to transfer or transition to industry as well. So I would suggest to gain more experience that industry is looking for. So if you're working in retail pharmacy that specializes in something, maybe you can apply for a position that is related to that you can use your transferable skills for, or apply for APhA-ASP, 4th year rotations, and then internships and fellowships. But I'm not sure what the upperclassmen think about that.
How about you, Joanne? What do you think? Do you think retail experience or like not having experience will interfere getting a job or internship from?
Personally, for me, when I got the ORISE experience, my only real world experience, relevant experience that is, was as a CVS tech, but my CV wasn't just, like pharmacy tech. It was also my research experiences, my leadership experiences in APhA and also IPHO, and my skills and also the things, awards I had gotten or competitions or presentations that I had done in the past. So I think that if you only, because everyone has to start out from somewhere, right? So and there's a lot of things that you could get involved with in school, like really easily, that you don't have to compete for, like competitions and being involved in organizations. And if you just reach out to like professors, a lot of them do need help, and a lot of them will be willing to let you onto their research projects. So research projects are really good. But I think if you really want to emphasize your retail experience, maybe if you did something exceptional, maybe like if you developed an app to help CVS improve patient adherence, you could really talk about that during your interviews and stuff. But the main thing is just having something to talk about during your interview and making yourself, I guess, like advertising yourself to people, like how you could be useful or how you could, again, transferable skills. So
Right.
that's my input on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Karen, do you have anything to add? I think we have to start from somewhere, right? Just like what Joanne said. How can we like PR, like branding ourselves? Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, so I really agree with what Eileen and Joanne have already said. I guess to add on to that, if you only have the retail experience, you need to really show a clear interest and passion for why you're trying to go into a specific area in industry. So for example, like with the FDA ORISE fellowship, it really helps to have a research background, but also if you have a clear interest in why you want to help the pediatric population and you make a strong case for that in your cover letter, that would help as well. And maybe, at retail, working at retail, you really like helping kids take their medicine, so things like that. But you have to make a really strong connection for it, just because, like Eileen said, it's getting super competitive and you're not competing with just other PharmD students.
Thank you. Now we're gonna switch up the questions. Sorry, Andrew, just because we want to cover as many questions that we got. So I think a lot of people had questions about internship. I think this is like very important. Like you guys have done a lot of internship from like different different companies. So I would like to ask, like so someone asked, how many did you apply and what the time frame is like to hear back for interviews? Can you briefly explain like how it works in terms of the process of getting the internship?
I can go first. So you can pretty much apply to an internship starting in September. I know my P1 year, I didn't hear back until like April. But I had a few interviews, like mostly lined up in the spring, like throughout January to like April. And then my P2 year, after I had that like research experience with Dr. Buru, I got an offer in March, and like now I got an offer in January. So having that experience like does help. I mean, just going back to the last question too, it's all about building your story, and there's so many resources kind of at the school to like build that story. Like, why are you interested in like regulatory science? Why are you interested in medical affairs? Well, I did this project in XYZ to like that's related to medical affairs, reg affairs in this way. So it's really about building that story. It's not necessarily about the experience. Like those things do help. The more experience you have, it's just kind of like accumulates. But as a P1, it's more really about showing interest and being really proactive and being able to explain your experience as well to show why you're a good fit for this position. It does get easier timeline wise. So April to like January to April is generally when you're going to hear back from stuff.
Okay, Jordan, I think one question that we have is like, how do you find the opportunity of internships? Like, where can we go look for it? Should we just go straight to the company websites or like LinkedIn? What's your recommendations?
So I'm actually going to defer to Anna on this one, only because I have never applied to a pharmaceutical industry internship throughout my entire time at pharmacy school. So I am not the best person for advice. So I'm going to defer to Anna for this.
Okay, Anna.
Okay, so I do have a lot of experience with this. I really think the number one best way to find out about internship postings is word of mouth, especially if someone you know did an internship and they can like recommend it to you or even put in a good word. I really think that is like first line. That's kind of how I got my first internship. I had a really good mentor who did it 2 years before me. He told me he thought I would be a really good fit for it. I applied cold. I don't even think he talked to the person, but on the phone, the person was like, oh, you go to University of Maryland, so you know Nam. I'm like, yeah, actually, he's like my mentor. And like, he really liked that. And that's how I got my first internship P1 year. I also remember talking a lot about how I studied marketing, and they really liked that unique combination of the PharmD and marketing. So again, at your interviews, especially early on in your career, emphasizing what makes you unique is really important. Then thereafter, that was like the only industry internship I applied to my P1 year, just because I heard about it word of mouth. After that, I started kind of getting more immersed in industry, and I started figuring out what companies I like. And I really just started going directly to their websites, looking at their careers page and applying that way. Pfizer has an amazing summer student workers program. It's very robust. I will say the majority of people there are like their parents work there, but sometimes you can get lucky. And like I applied there cold, no referral, nothing. And they just fished my resume out of the HR filtering system. And I interviewed for 2 positions and I was able to get both offers, which was weird because I actually applied for medical affairs and both of the roles were in commercial. So it made me think like, do I know something? Did they know something that I don't? I don't know. But that was very lucky, and it was just like right place, right time. And then my P3 year, I remember I applied to something like 10 to 15, again, by going directly to company websites. I got an interview with Amgen, and it was just a really good fit. And right on the spot, I was able to accept the offer. So again, for me, what has always worked is just going to companies I like, websites, because that already shows like you know what you want and you know what's a good fit for you. And then you can talk about why you want that company on the phone a lot easier than you can like moving backwards by like going on Indeed or LinkedIn and looking up medical affairs intern and then just applying cold. And then they interview you and ask, why do you want to work here? And you're like, I don't know, I found this posting on LinkedIn. So I think it's a lot better to go like top down rather than bottom up, if that makes sense. Like know what companies you like and apply to them rather than just apply everywhere and then decide where you like it. But that's just my strategy.
I think like we need to hear about your experiences of like how to apply. I think that was super helpful. Because of the time for the classes coming up, so this will be the last question for everyone. So just briefly, like 1 or 2 sentences. What is your highlight of your current school year? Starting with Eileen.
I would say being able to adapt to the virtual learning environment is one, and then being very lucky to still get to work with the company and hopefully another internship with them.
Oh, let me phrase it another way. Like for going into the industry field, like let's say like, oh, P2 year, do this. Like if you have to pick one, like what would you recommend?
For internship?
No, not just the internship, like industry, like for example, like, oh, do PNT competition when you're.
Oh yes, PNT competition. That was so challenging, but it was such a great learning experience for me because I only heard of managed care through AMCP meetings, but then being able to do a work that allow you to learn, that was a great learning experience. So highly recommend.
Thank you. Joanne?
So are we talking about like a highlight as in like one thing that we think is beneficial? Okay.
You can pick one thing for your
Okay.
year. Yeah.
I would also say P&T competition because I know Sean and Eileen, all of us worked really hard on that. And I definitely learned like a lot of new terminology that I didn't know, like ICER, cost effectiveness ratios, stuff like that. So I think that was
Thank you.
very, very good to learn, especially if you want to get into HEOR.
I can witness that. Karen, what's your P3 recommendation?
I got a promotion when COVID started, so that was great.
Do you think, is there anything that you want to recommend as a P3, like, at your P3 years, like do this, like, I don't know, be involved with your organization or?
Yeah, so you have a little bit more free time in your schedule just because, you know, P2 year is so hectic. Use the extra time to, like Anna said, like go back and reconnect with your friends, your mentors, your family. I've really been enjoying the extra time to actually have more conversations, FaceTime, Zoom calls, etc.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yeah, I kind of agree. P3 year, you are taking a lot. You're done with AST finally, so you have a lot more time on your hands. So I really enjoyed just being able to be involved in the research projects that I want to, being able to like do the master's program. There are things I like genuinely enjoy doing. So definitely just focus on like kind of yourself P3 year. It also is like a lot of, you are involved in leadership positions as well. If you enjoy doing that, I like recommend just doing more of the things you want to, and applying to APhA-ASP too is important in the fall semester. Yeah, it's P3 is more kind of building what you want to do.
Right. Thank you. Jordan?
So my favorite experience that I would recommend would be the Procter & Gamble rotation. It was great. They actually gave us a list of all of the pharmacists that they had there, or at least like a good list of them, and had us reach out to all of them. They were all really happy to meet with us. So it was great. We really were able to expand our network, and it was just a really good experience.
Thank you. How about you, Anna, as a P4?
Yeah, so I would say to pick your APPs very wisely and do not silo yourself. Like, don't tell yourself, I want to go into industry. I have to do every industry APPE that our school has. Don't do that. I actually didn't do any industry APPEs. My two electives was FDA because I didn't have any FDA experience, and that is extremely valuable to industry. And then I did research because I just really wanted to do something remote while I was doing my internship at the same time, and I just didn't want too much overlap of like very high stress things. But other than that, I also did I am doing the Johns Hopkins clinical track, and it has been an extremely rewarding experience. And a lot of people questioned me when I was applying to the clinical track, like, why would you want to do that? That's for people who want to do residency. And just, I hate these boxes that people in pharmacy, and maybe just people in general, put other people in. Just because you don't want to do a residency doesn't mean you shouldn't strengthen your clinical skill set. It is extremely vital that as pharmacists, we graduate with a strong clinical skill set, because if industry wants people with good business skills, they would hire MBAs or economists. They hire us because we have good insight into patients' needs and values and preferences. So my favorite rotation has actually been my bone marrow transplant rotation. It was just the most incredible experience. If you can do Johns Hopkins clinical track, and specifically this rotation, I highly recommend it, because you were literally working with physicians who invented certain things that have like improved patient outcomes, like within the transplant space, like monumentally. So I'm just a huge fangirl for the Hopkins bone marrow transplant department. It's very specific, but if you have any passion for oncology, highly recommend.
Thank you so much. First of all, I really appreciate for all the panels. I know like you guys are busy with rotations and the class is coming in 5 minutes. I think it was super great. If everyone who can turn on the camera, that would be great. So we can take a screenshot real quick for annual report. And just to give you more insight, we're also gonna do similar things for like clinical track and also public health in next 2 months. So please tune into that. And thank you guys for coming in today, and hope you guys it was helpful and learned a lot. Just I'll give it 5 more seconds to take the pictures. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm gonna take the screenshot. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, guys, thank you. Thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed and have a great day. Thank you guys for especially the
Thank you,
panel.
everyone.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming in today.
Thanks, Sean.
It was great.
Bye, guys.
Bye.